I can't believe we're already halfway through 2021. It feels like the past 18 months have just been a whirlwind between the pandemic and now readjusting to this new normal, whatever this new normal means. The world shifting to working remotely. It's just been a crazy 18 months, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. And for a lot of enterprises now, they're figuring out what does that mean. What does it mean to return to office, and what do they do with that physical space? And then I think a lot of analysts are saying that most companies will keep a large share of their employees working remotely. So they need some changes there in the enterprise to accommodate that, right?
Yeah, I think COVID accelerated this trend, right? Like it was already happening, and some companies were slower to adapt to it. And then COVID happened and they had no choice. Everyone had to go and do it. And like you said, a lot of companies are now going to adopt this long term, whether it's this hybrid work model, partly remote, partly in the office, or fully remote, right? I think you and I, Matt, we've been doing this for a long time where we've worked remotely, but most companies pre-COVID, you know, weren't doing this except for extreme cases like where they were traveling or certain use cases. And I think part of that is due to just some of the productivity concerns that come with, working remotely. And then the second part is not having the systems and infrastructure in place to support that hybrid work model. And so today we have invited Sasha, who will talk to us about why moving to Citrix Workspace is great for you. So welcome, Sasha.
Hi, Anna. Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hi, Sasha. Thanks a lot for joining us. We know you work with a lot of Citrix customers in the field, and you plan on work with them on coming up with their strategy. What are you seeing in terms of their adoption of Citrix Workspace, and what are some of the benefits for them?
Yeah, actually, it's very interesting to see that, as you said, Matt and Anna. What we have seen over the past, let's say, 1.5 years is that the adoption has heavily increased, right? Because scalability, bottlenecks on premises were high during the pandemic, so people were shifting to remote work, to actually remote workplaces, and this has actually caused also some scalability issues or bottlenecks. Therefore, Citrix Workspace really helped our customers, our large enterprise customers, especially here in EMEA, to accelerate actually the transition and to make it possible for them to work with or to give them actually the platform to access the applications smooth.
Awesome. So can you enlighten us just, why should people move to Citrix Workspace? Like, what are you seeing in the field, Sasha?
Well, actually, there are hundreds of reasons, right? But just actually to summarize the highlights is from one standpoint, you can really decrease the costs. You can simplify the infrastructure. And I will also provide this or explain this in more detail during my presentation. But the second point is that you are getting values which we can't actually deliver on premises. Just because we are using microservices, we are using cloud services, which are only available in cloud. And this makes for us also simpler and easier actually to provide additional benefits, functions, features to our customers. But before we really talk about why Citrix Workspace is right for you, I would like to highlight a few things that are happening at the moment. And also, I would like to emphasize or outline some trends that we are seeing at our customers and also in the market. So the first statement is a quite bold one, right? The future of work needs to be reimagined. But for me, it's quite simple, right? I always compare how I consume technology in my private life to how customers or how we actually use in general applications and technology in our business life. And there is a huge gap, not only from the application perspective, but also from the device perspective. The second point, and this is already, or this is in my eyes, a short-term item, employee experience needs to be consistent regardless where the employee is working. So it needs to be frictionless. It doesn't matter if the user sits in the office or a remote. We need to have a consistent user experience. Otherwise, the user will have friction or will have actually issues to adapt. And this also means he will have negative implications to the employee productivity. Everything we are going to talk about in the employee experience regards, it needs to be under the umbrella of security. Third point is increase remote employee productivity. I think surprisingly, we have all seen that the employee productivity was equal, maybe also a little bit higher working from remote. But now we need to find new ways how to even improve the employee productivity. Usually what we see quite often is simplification and automation. So these two items really help actually to increase or improve the employee productivity. So this is actually the high level trends that we are seeing. In order to give you a better understanding of the implications to the Citrix infrastructure, to any other IT vendor infrastructure, I would like to show you or explain a little bit the implications based on a comparison between traditional deployments and modern deployments. First, I would like to explain the implications or actually the changes we are seeing at the user side. In the past, we were actually separating internal user and external user. Internal user were always more secure. They had more access to applications, and external users were always a concern. This will change. Internet is going to be the new corporate network, and therefore it will not matter anymore from where the user is coming or what kind of a user we will have. Eventually or ultimately, this means that we need to ensure that we have some sort of conditional access or contextual access, or also a zero trust layer in order to really be sure what kind of access the users have to the applications or to the backend systems. Another point are the devices. In the past, we had standard devices, only one device. In the meantime, the employees are carrying with them multiple devices, different operating systems. And this makes also a little bit the integration to the applications or the access actually to the applications more difficult. At the right-hand side, we have the backend. In the past, we had this traditional application landscape where we had these huge backend systems or servers on premises. In the meantime, what we are seeing, we have more and more web applications, but also more and more SaaS applications. So the application backend is outsourced to a public cloud infrastructure, to a cloud infrastructure per se. So these two items, these are external forces, are having magnificent impacts on our infrastructure. So in the past or also today, when we talk about on-premises, we have three different layers. We have the access layer, we have the control layer, and we have the resource layer. In the future, while using Citrix Workspace, we can really simplify all these elements. I would say we are just talking about the access layer because everything else is covered and maintained by Citrix ultimately. This also means that because we are going to use more and more SaaS applications, we are not going to see only screen transmission from our infrastructure to the endpoint devices. We will also have more and more data transmission. And this also means that we have to find new ways how we are going to secure the application delivery to the endpoints. That said, the resource layer is not going away, right? I suppose we will see less and less workloads because we are going to see more and more web applications. But the beauty about this model is actually we can really integrate the software as a service applications into Citrix Workspace natively. And this also means that we can really reduce the number of workloads. Okay, these were the impacts on CVAD, but let's have a broader look. Let's have a look at the entire Citrix portfolio. Again, we have the same external forces. We have at the left-hand side, the user layer with people, devices, locations. And at the right-hand side, we have data center, cloud, we have software as a service, and also edge computing is coming up. This is our, let's say, entire Citrix portfolio stack. And in the meantime, I'm actually differentiating between two elements. We have traditional solutions. This is virtual apps and desktops, endpoint management, content collaboration, or provisioning. But as I said, because we have new forces, or we have actually a change in the market, we also have to expand. And therefore, we have also in the meantime, micro apps. Micro apps are very relevant for us to simplify access to application. It also increases the employee productivity. We have analytics capabilities in order to, for example, support security troubleshooting or also performance troubleshooting. We have assistance bots, which can be integrated in Teams to make also the employee experience a little bit better. And one of the most important parts is also the integration of web applications, right? Therefore, we have products such as Citrix SIA in order to have a secure web gateway function to really secure not only the transmission of the screen, but also the transmission of the data. That being said, traditional doesn't mean it's legacy, right? We still have a very, very strong product roadmap. We just have also to follow now new trends, which are more towards cloud and also software as a service. So now we know the end goal or the next stage, but the question is now how to get there and what are the implications or impacts in a Citrix Workspace environment. So this is actually the current model that we see quite often on premises with all the different Citrix components. We have gateway, we have storefront, we have controllers, other components such as licensing studio, director, data store, SQL servers, a lot of components, right? When you approach a migration or transition to Citrix Cloud, do it step by step. Don't do it everything at once because it causes sometimes you are going to increase complexity and you are also going to increase the dependency on other project streams. So start with the minimum viable product. And what is the minimum viable product? It's moving the control plane, the infrastructure parts of CVAD into cloud. This is also quite simple in my eyes. It's a low-hanging fruit. And this is also the way how you can consume or get Citrix Workspace benefits quite fast. You can also use automation configuration from Citrix, a tool in order to simplify the migration process. And I would really say that the efforts behind that are very, very low. Another benefit of this is actually if you keep storefront on-prem at the very first stage, you are able actually to do the transition in the background, so users are not impacted at all. Second point is then to move storefront, and this again means you are reducing complexity on premises, you are reducing, as I said beforehand, the number of infrastructure servers, and again, you are going to have operational benefits. From the Citrix perspective, you can also then move Citrix Gateway, and at that point, you have actually fully operating Citrix Cloud environment, and can afterwards also expand with Workspace Environment Management or performance and security analytics. The last point is also you can start to use public cloud environments. You can already start this in parallel at the beginning, but my recommendation is don't make Citrix Workspace transition to public cloud transition dependent. So try to make it separate or try to separate each other, because usually the public cloud integration is much more complex. And if you have a dependency, it will also delay the Citrix cloud transition. So let's have a last look at the benefits of the Citrix Workspace solution. First of all, as I said many times, we are going to reduce the number of infrastructure servers. You're going to have Citrix cloud controllers, but you're going to get rid of the SQL infrastructure, of the delivery controller, storefront, and so on and so forth. So the footprint of the infrastructure servers are going to decrease. Second, the lower the number of infrastructure servers, the lower the operational efforts. So you don't have to install the CRs or the LTSR cumulative updates anymore. We are going to take care of this. So you are going to free up time from the administrator perspective. The last point, which is also relevant for the savings part or the cost savings part, and it's a quite interesting one. So before you actually decide to continue on-premise, try to consider or to think about what is happening in the next 3 years. As soon as you have a consolidation project, or if you have to re-architecture your infrastructure, or even if you are going to use public cloud, I'm pretty sure that Citrix Workspace is going to make it simpler for you. The migration efforts are much less, we believe, or what we have seen also in our different customer conversations is that the migration to Citrix Cloud is 3 times faster than a consolidation project. So these are the savings that we see. And on top, we have actually the benefits. First of all, as I said, because we are reducing the operational efforts, you can now invest your resources into innovation. So you can have time for innovation. You can also focus on new projects, for example, integrating software as a service applications, and therefore also innovate your entire company. Second point is actually you can get immediate access to Workspace Environment Management. VEM is for me one of the most underestimated products that we have, because VEM can really reduce the utilization on the workloads. This means you can reduce up to 5 to 10% of your workloads just by using VEM. And I know you have VEM entitled in advanced and premium editions on-prem, but this means also you have to build up again an infrastructure and also to maintain the infrastructure. This is not necessary in cloud. Another point is, as I mentioned before, you have access to gateway service. You can reduce with Citrix Workspace the cloud consumption by 35%. This is huge, right? Because autoscale ensures that the machines are getting shut down once they are not used anymore, or once the users are logged off. Another point which I mentioned several times is you have access to Citrix Workspace, so you can really now secure the web applications in a different way, not only isolating, but you can now also secure the data stream. You have access to additional services such as performance analytics for performance or security analytics. Config service is another one. And last but not least, you are going to have an evergreen environment. Some of our customers are skipping actually current releases or are using LTSR, so they do not have all the current features. We ensure that you are getting the latest and greatest features immediately. More additionally, we are also going to reduce the risks because security hotfixes are going to be applied immediately, so you have no lead time or delay on premises. So just to summarize, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
All right. I was going to say a lot of benefits, Sasha, and I guess a lot of this comes from the way you showed us earlier that you move things like the control layer into the cloud. But I recall the user layer didn't change, so I guess you get these benefits, but user experience still is the same or similar?
I would say it's better, right?
Better.
So again, I mean, you can have access to the latest and greatest features right away. So if we have an HDX improvement, you are getting it immediately. What we see, especially in large accounts, is they are using LTSR, so they get the features only after 2 years. And the other point is also Citrix Workspace. With Citrix Workspace, you have access to micro apps, right? So this means that you don't actually have to open the entire application to navigate through the application. You just have much more capabilities to offer to the users so that they can actually decide how they want to use or consume the application. Good. Just to summarize, actually, at one hand, we are going to decrease the IT footprint. So we see definitely operational benefits. The infrastructure footprint will be decreased. And second, also, you are going to have really a platform to innovate, right? So you have optimization capabilities. Automation is something which is quite important. Artificial intelligence is going to be more and more important. So we have products and capabilities in order to support these kind of streams. And also from the scalability and agility perspective, you have bigger benefits than on-prem.
No, that's awesome, Sasha. So I guess from your customer base in EMEA, are you seeing that shift in mindset versus like 12, 18 months ago to now, them seeing the real tangible benefits of moving to Workspace versus staying in a traditional environment?
Absolutely. Yeah. So what I've seen in many different accounts, and I was actually part of the very first EMEA cloud project 3.5 years ago. And they actually repurposed also the administrators' work, right? So they saw, okay, Citrix Cloud had operational benefits. They do not have to spend so much time on maintaining the Citrix infrastructure. So actually they created new project streams, they created new work, and they repurposed the resources. And also from the user perspective, as we have now Citrix Workspace, as I mentioned also before, because we have much more capabilities, the users really have freedom of choice. This increases the adoption from our side in EMEA.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think this has been really informative, Sasha, just to see the high level overview, right? And to really understand strategically why you should be thinking. I think one of the key aspects of it is that agility that you get by moving to Citrix Workspace, where if you need to scale up, if you need to scale down, if something happens, you have the infrastructure in place, right? And the systems in place to be able to do that versus having to figure it out on the go and having to deploy all of this. Without having that flexibility. So we appreciate you coming on today, Sasha. This has been really helpful and really informative.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Matt. Have a nice day.